Howdy, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Hats Hits IG Live special, coming to you a little bit after midnight. I'm here a little bit after midnight. I'd be here 30, 45 minutes earlier if I could, but I had to make the trek back from Norfolk. Imagine if I had to come from like an 8:04 Nova game. Triple overtime classic tonight in the 757 with the two-time defending Class 5 state champion Maury Commodores and the Bishop McNamara Mustangs, 38-35. We've got all kinds of sound for you coming up on 757 Saturday Sports Talk. You're watching on Cova Sports TV. You're interacting with us on Instagram. We're on Twitter, X, Facebook, all the different platforms. But let's go through them in chronological order of the 5 Hats Hits tweets that I gave you on Twitter or X at Hatfield Sports, and take any interaction you have for us. You can hit the comment line, the chat line through YouTube, Facebook, IG, wherever you may be tuning in. Great, just another ordinary Friday night of high school football action, right? Not quite. Overtimes galore. And we'll start with number 1. Not that Maury game. We'll save that for a little bit later on with McNamara. But we'll start off with Dinwiddie and Highland Springs as my air conditioning here in the corner. If you see it up there, it's literally about to fall apart as I hear it making cracks and all kinds of sounds. And my wings that I got from the wing joint are getting cold. So I'm going to try to make this as quickly as possible for all of you out there. Dinwiddie gets it done over Highland Springs on the road, 28-21. Heck of a win for Billy Mills and the Generals, who are 3-0 and looking like a state title contender. And you say, I thought Dinwiddie's days were done when Harry Dalton, the Richmond touchdown record setter, graduated and moved on to Southern Cal. And Billy Mills said, not so fast, my friend. That's not bad, Billy Mills. And my voice was like not even close to Lee Corso either. He just said, not so fast. He had one of the Wiggins' little brothers at wide receiver step up, made a big catch from the new quarterback in Zion Boyceau. Kayvon Wiggins, I think it was older brother Zalen, played for Dinwiddie. 55-yarder, tied it up at 14 all in the first quarter. Highland Springs went ahead. Big plays from Padmore, big plays from this guy, that guy. They come back, and Dinwiddie takes it in OT, 28-21. And what's it say? It says that Billy Mills is, without a doubt, one of the best coaches in the state, and Dinwiddie has a program, not one of those once upon a time here and then gone. They get it done, and they are looking like a Class 4 championship-level team. We've talked so much about who's the best team in 4. Is it Verona? Is it Phoebus? Phoebus has won 50 in a row, and they're getting ready for some history, trying to match the record that they share with Riverheads for the state's longest win streak. Well, Dinwiddie says, we're here to make an undefeated charge. Won a state title 2 years ago, came up just short against Verona, and their offseason program, they get it done. Weight room, conditioning, they're legit. Heck of a road win at Highland Springs, which played Huff out of North Carolina to the wire and put up a 60-burger on Hopewell in the first week. So that's number 1. Big props and big ups to Dinwiddie on the road, because I don't know who picked him to win. I didn't do it. I'm sure my colleagues at Virginia Preps didn't do it. The score predictor on Rivals in Virginia Preps, they didn't do it either. They had the Springers 35-28, ended up being 28-21. Dinwiddie in OT. Number 2, and if you're at any game tonight, something we missed, something you want to talk about, you want to mention, hit the chat line, Facebook, YouTube, IG, Twitter, X. We're all over the place for you here on the Hats Hits IG Live Takeaways special on this particular Friday night in September as we turn the calendar from the 12th to the 13th. Number 2, Colgan Sharks. You may not be familiar with them unless you live in Prince William County. They've only been around for 9 years. They're 9 years old. They're as old as my niece. And the difference between the Colgan Sharks and my niece is what? Well, they probably don't eat as much candy. They didn't go to a wrestling show at the Scope like my niece did. They played a football game, and they pounded Unity Reed. And their new coach in Lauren White came from Brentsville District, where he took them to multiple state playoffs and multiple region titles. Colgan Sharks, they've never won 3 in a row until now. Lauren White leaves Brentsville for Colgan, and you see why. He knew they had athletes. He knew they had a good zone. He knew the time was now. His son, who he coached a couple years ago at linebacker, Langston, I believe it was, he's moved on to the next level, and now Lauren White's got Colgan on the map, just like he had Brentsville. 3-0, 49 points per game, and they look like they're going to be a team to be reckoned with in the years to come. Not calling for anything outrageous. I'm not saying championship. I'm not saying playoff win. But you know what? Colgan is relevant. And that was what the fan base was wanting when he took the job. So I tipped the visor, not the hat, here on Hats Hits, to Lauren White and his Colgan Sharks. Number 3 on the takeaways that we had on this particular Friday night. Class 3. If you look at our rankings on VirginiaPreps.com, someone might just pull them up and say, why you got an 0-1 team number 1 and an 0-1 team number 2? Liberty Christian, 2-time defending champs, they're number 2. They lost to Ironton out of Ohio. Number 1 team, their Seminole District rival, Heritage of Lynchburg, who lost a weather-shortened game and a half to Bridgeport, an 11-time state champ from West Virginia. Why do you have them 1 and 2? I'm questioning you. Why? My niece loves asking why. You give her an answer to a question, she still says why. We're not playing that game. Well, I'll tell you why, because I think they'll be there at the end. But I'll also tell you what else I think, and that is Region 3D has 3 teams that might be able to go beat one of those teams in Region 3C. And I know Region 3C says we've got more than just those 2. We got Allegheny with Desmond Jordan. We got Turner Ashby. We've got some other teams that are very capable. But Region 3D has 3 teams. Lower Botetourt, Magna Vista, which, by the way, I butchered the spelling on that, so I apologize to Lower Botetourt people out there. Lower Botetourt, Magna Vista, and William Byrd, the Terriers, who won back-to-back region titles. Those 3 teams can do some damage and can be playing not just in September, October, November, but all the way in December. They have some dudes, and their offenses are putting up 40, 50-plus points. They're legit, and we could see one of those teams. I think 3D, we love things in 3D, right? Region 3D has 3 teams that can legitimately win a state championship. I'm not sure another region in Class 3, which looks like the most wide open to me at this particular moment. Remember, you say LCA, they've been the giant. Well, they graduated their stud in Gideon Davidson to Clemson. Easton Ware, his best blocker, went to Clemson as well. Frank Rocco's got a new look team, and they can be there in the end, but it's going to take some time. 3D has 3 teams that can really make it interesting, and I think whoever comes out of that region, and assuming it's going to be one of those 3, in my opinion, will probably have a great chance to win the state championship. I'm not sure the Region 3A champ does it. I'm not sure the Region 3B champ does it. And ordinarily, I'd take the 3C champ, LCA or Heritage Lynchburg. I'm starting to wonder if that team is able to beat the 3D champ to win the title. Let's go to number 4 on the Hats Hits 5 takeaways. I'll give you some quick hitter parting shots and bit of do on this particular Friday night and a Saturday morning with you here. And again, follow the X Hatfield Sports for all your tweet updates and different things. We got the SpongeBob overtime teeth thing as our gift for the night. It's a gift to all of you out there, and it's a gift for the social media people. Virginia high school football. That's what we're talking about on these shows. There is a high school named Virginia High out in Bristol, Virginia, the Bearcats, and they are 4-0. They're the first team to get to 4-0. Salute to you guys. Beat their opponent by a big margin. Score doesn't matter. Opponent doesn't matter. I'm sorry. But what does matter is I'm going to stamp their junior running back, Caden Laws, my player of the week, my POW. Last week it was Savion Hyder of Louisa, who I was gushing about, and rightfully so, for the 5-star running back who helped his team shut out Cortland as he had 300-plus yards and multiple touchdowns in a runaway victory. Big performances all over the state. Before that, Forest Park had a guy. Hampton's quarterback, Marcus Chapman, had a big game. Caden Laws, junior running back for Virginia High, had 23 touches, 322 yards, 4 touchdowns. Keep an eye on him. Keep an eye on his team, because Region 2D, they had a war on Thursday night that I watched on the NFHS network with the Union High Bears and the Graham G-Men. G-Men won the state title last year. And those 2 teams figure to be right there in the end, as well as Glenver, who I've got ranked number 1 presently on VirginiaPreps.com in Class 2, led by Brody Doyot there, do everything quarterback and defensive end. Some good teams in the eastern side of the state with Pocosin, who got themselves a nice comeback win over Tab, with Thomas Jefferson of Richmond, with Armstrong, who beat TJ in that continuation of a game on Monday. Strasburg made the states last year. They figure to be the team that probably has a chance to come out of 2B. But Virginia High, not really on our radar, not in the top 10 high, but they're starting to move up the ladder. They keep doing this with Caden Laws running wild. And our 5th and final hit on the Hats Hits. And then we'll give you some quick takeaways, some thoughts, and some other scores, and take any questions or comments you may have if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook or X or Twitter or LinkedIn or here on the IG Instagram. We can wave at different people. I want to hear what you have to say if you were at a high school football game or if you have a thought in your mind or anything. It could be college football, NFL, sports related. Been a crazy week and a crazy night of games. The game I was at, triple overtime, Maury 38, Bishop McNamara 35. And Maury had trouble against the run this night. They really did. McNamara carved them up for well over 200. And it was a big night rushing for Verona last week in a 14-13 escape for the Commodores. Did it with Damo Everett finding the William & Mary commit Javon Wiggins last week. Maury's up 14-0 in control of the game. In fact, McNamara is about to punt. It is 4th and 6, late second quarter, mid to late second quarter. Looks like a runaway. Looks like my 35-16 prediction is going to come to fruition, or at least close to it, you know. And then Maury jumps off sides. And that was the big turning point moment, because they run the ball, do the Mustang to McNamara, and they get it to halftime 14-7, end up tying the game, end up taking the lead before the Commodores piece together a drive behind the sophomore quarterback in Everett. And they win this back and forth, edge of your seat game that didn't end until about 10:30 at night after it started at 7 o'clock. I didn't get out there until about 11:15, maybe later than that. Powhatan Field in Norfolk. VJ8539 wants to know, do I think Maury is the number one team in the state? Well, I do, in Class 5. Had they lost this game to drop to 1-2, they could have very easily dropped below the teams that are on the cusp, which we have in our rankings right now. Green Run number 2, Kings Fork number 3. Kings Fork, by the way, had a bit of a tussle, only up 7-0 at the half on Deep Creek before they pulled away easily against the Hornets. They're coming off the big win over Wise of Maryland last week, which I took in. Highland Springs and Stonebridge 4-5. And they play tough schedules, just like Maury does. Kings Fork's in the Southeastern District, really tough. Green Run's the only team in the Beach District. Sorry, Beach, I'm just going to be honest here. But you don't get tested week in and week out. Now, Maury's not going to get tested in the Eastern District. They've been beating people, blowing them away by 50-plus points. Lake Taylor used to be that team that could test them. Don't have the numbers and the bodies and the guys anymore. But let's stick with this for a second. Do I think they're still number one in the state? I do. All classifications, I do. But last week's Verona game showed they can be beaten. This team is not as invincible looking, or as dominant as they've been. People forget. I think this is the thing that we try to get across in our fifth Hats Hit. The number of guys that Maury lost from the last 2 years, in which they won 30 consecutive games, back-to-back Class 5 championships. And I think we sometimes take for granted when we watch a team win by 48.7 points per game, and they do it playing a schedule that includes Dinwiddie, Highland Springs, and Wise, that they should just mow over everybody that they see. But they graduated 9 all-state performers from last season, 6 of which are playing Division I college football, 5 of them at Power 5 schools. We're talking about Altori Newkirk, 2-time state player of the year quarterback at UNC, a guy that threw 50 touchdowns last year. We're talking about LeBron Bond. The name's Bond. LeBron Bond, not James Bond. LeBron Bond, wide receiver, Indiana. Over 1,400 yards as a senior, all-purpose. Defensive lineman in Ari Watford, 17 sacks, Clemson. Carlton C.J. Smith, 100-plus tackles, Maryland. Kendall Daniels, do-everything guy, both sides of the ball. South Carolina. Lost a lot of big-name guys. And here they are having to reinvent themselves to a degree. Sophomore quarterback who had 3 touchdown runs. Junior running back in Tayshawn Branch, who is really showing his ability. 27 carries for $159 in this game. And the 2 heroes of the night for Maury. One is one of those Power 5 guys that they still have. 3-time All-State linebacker and Isaiah Ike Simmons, who's going to Pittsburgh. He makes an open field tackle on 2nd and goal in the 3rd overtime session. And I felt like Daree McCann was going to go for 2 at the end of regulation. Might do it at the end of the overtime session, the first one. Might try it in the 2nd overtime. He didn't do it at any of them because he had faith in the kicker, Charlie McCoy. And wouldn't it be ironic that a Hatfield like me would be interviewing a McCoy on a Friday night in September? It was just in the longest high school football game I think I've witnessed in person. I've done some double overtime games, never a triple overtime game. And McCoy showed the ice water in the veins to make all of his extra points, all 5 of them. He made 2 field goals in the opening loss to Cardinal Gibbons, and he made 2 crucial PATs in a 14-13 nail biter with Verona. So the point being, these nail biters will help Maury. Whether they complete the three-peat or not, time will tell. And VJ wants to know, you can say that same thing about another team too. Tell me what team. What team are we saying this about? Love to hear. Another team. You say another team too. You're leaving that open here. Let me hear who it is. And I tell you what, this is a very good win for them. My man, Little Tay from VA, as we get ready to put the finishing touches here the last few minutes, what do you think about Kempsville and the Beach? I'm glad you brought them up because they were not on my Hats Hits cutoff for tonight. He says PHS. I guess he's talking about Phoebus. Yes, 50 straight wins for Phoebus. I'll get to them in a second, VJ. I'll get to them in a second because their time's coming. We'll get to them in a second. And they've won 4 state titles. And Phoebus has been the longer, more dominant team than Maury. Although I will argue, to no fault of Phoebus's, they've not played quite as premier competition. But I marvel at what Jeremy Blunt and the Phantoms have done. We'll get to them in a second. But let me get to my man's comment, Lil Tay from VA, about Kempsville. Big win for them tonight. And this was the game I was considering checking out because it is literally like 5 minutes from my house. Them in Bayside as the Chiefs won 37-20. Robert Hughes, 32 rushes for 247 and 2 touchdowns. I think they call that guy Snug, if I'm not mistaken. Something like that. He's got a nickname. I want to say it's Snug. They got a shovel pass 4 times in the game. 140 yards for Joshua Hawley, my guy Hawley, who is going to Hampton University. And really, really good win for Kempsville. They jumped out 20-0 on Bayside, who I was contemplating should I pick him. My partner on 757 Sports Talking on the picks on Virginia Preps, Coach Ed Young, now coaching hoops at Smithfield. He's got the lead on me in the picks, but he took Bayside, I took Kempsville. Not because I walked the halls at Kempsville many, many years ago, but Kempsville's ground attack, really good job with Hughes leading the way. That offensive line hunkering down. Elijah McDaniel was a beast on defense. Samir Kroom, former Marlin, by the way, had some key receptions, as did Jalen Beatty and James Rutherford V. And Kempsville got it done. Bayside did make it a more competitive, tried to make it a more competitive game in the second half. They lose 37-20. I will see the Marlins most likely next week against Salem, who Kempsville lost to that first game. And this was almost like a must-win for Kempsville. They didn't want to fall to 1-2 and still have to play Green Run because then you get written off right away. You get written off as far as a contender goes right away. And that's not fair, but that's just the reality of it. Bayside's now 2-1. They got Salem next. But the Chiefs get this win. They blew the game against Salem that they thought was right there for them to take in week 1, being up double figures. And it's a good win for Daryl Cherry, who was unbeaten against Bayside. Remember, they snapped that 63-game losing streak or something like that against Bayside. And Daryl Cherry, in fact, somebody tonight in the press box I was at was talking about just the job he's done, resurrecting Kempsville football, which had a very nice tradition, proud tradition in the 80s under the late Ralph Gahagan. In the 90s, they were pretty, competitive. Early 2000s, made a playoff appearance under Jeff Beard, did well under Jeff McGowan, and then they fell off the map entirely. They hit rock bottom. And Kempsville has been relevant in a factor. They're trying to take the next step from good to elite in that conversation. Sometimes you have to have those level guys to take that step, but Coach Cherry and his staff, they've done a great job. Getting to VJ's question about PHS, another thing you can say about. You can. Phoebus has been, if you were talking about programs that have been the state mantle, Hampton Crabbers in the 90s, end of discussion. They were the team with Mike Smith, the legendary coach, and Ronald Curry leading the way, and a number of standouts. And their numbers, everybody else is pale in comparison. You turned the century to the 2000s, it has been Phoebus and Riverheads for the small schools, Riverheads, before the realignment from 6 classifications to 3, Group AAA, Division 6 and Division 5, and it went to 6-5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Phoebus, from the late, great Bill D to Stan Sexton and now Jeremy Blunt, they have been the flag carrier. Now, there have been other programs that have been great and had some dominant runs and maybe been more dominant in terms of statistics and overall prospects and things of that nature. Highland Springs comes to mind. Oscar Smith comes to mind. Maury here lately comes to mind. And there have been some moments. Take a Manchester, the year they were outstanding. Ocean Lakes, the year they were outstanding. That are right there in the conversation if you were to say who had the best team for a given year or a couple of years. But Phoebus' streak here, it's incredible. And the team they had a couple of years ago with Jordan Bass and Anthony Riddick and some guys that went to some P5 schools, Michael McMullen, that team could play any team in any division, much like we said about John Marshall in basketball. So the thing Maury's going to hold over Phoebus is they did scrimmage for a couple of years and they beat them. The game didn't matter. But for Phoebus, their moments here are coming where we'll see if in their district, the Hamptons, the Bethel, the Warwicks can knock on the door, and if they get that streak to break what they share with Riverheads for the most consecutive wins to get to 53 in a row. Because if they do that with this team, which lost after 31 seniors, that's big stuff. That's nothing to sneeze at. Some quick hitters that I want to touch on before I do bid adieu. Some scores that jumped out at me from this particular night. We talked about, obviously, Colgan and Maury's overtime win and Dinwiddie's overtime win and what's happening in 3D. Really interesting win for GW Danville, 17-13 over EC Glass. I think that is an important win for them. Their line of scrimmage play is going to be really important for them as they move forward and they have a chance to be a threat in 4D, where Jefferson Forest is looking to me like the team to beat. Salem Spartans lost again tonight. They're 0-3, a surprising 0-3. They never get off to an 0-3 start as they fell to William Fleming. Chilhowie, who I gave some props to last week, and I told people in the summertime in Class 1, were my most improved team in the state. Colgan might be in that argument too, but I told people, Chilhowie, 3 wins. They've matched last year. They shut out Narrows, who had their number 27-0. Coach Reed Sturgill, your Warriors are going in the top 10 next week in Class 1. By hook or by crook, they're getting in the rankings next week. Speaking of the rankings, Giles busted into it last week by beating their opponent, and that opponent was none other than Radford, 52-6 over Grundy. They're better than I thought. Essex and Rappahannock were great tonight. The team I have number 2, Eastside, had to slip by Rural Retreat 36-35. I'm starting to wonder if Eastside's not as good on defense as I thought, or Rural Retreat is better than I thought. They survive in advance, so we'll see if I do dip them in the rankings or not. I don't like to do that when a team wins usually, but we shall see. And that's pretty much it as far as the things that jump out at me on this particular edition of the Hats Hits IG Live Special. We've gone almost 25 minutes. There are some big games in college football and the NFL this weekend. Basketball team camp over at Virginia Wesleyan. I'll be stopping in at late Saturday and into Sunday. It's the final one at Virginia Wesleyan because they become Baton University next year, next July, I think it is. Georgia, Tennessee, I'll tell you right now, I think Georgia's going to win that game by at least 2 scores. So all the Tennessee people can get mad at me. Notre Dame, Texas A&M. Notre Dame should have no problem. They should win that game. They should bounce back. That should make Ed Young happy. NFL game that most fascinates me this week, real quickly, Chiefs-Eagles has got to be the game. Got to be the game. And everybody's on the Eagles, including me, but it does worry me about that because the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes is an underdog. They're very live, and they could go win at home. And all will be well back in KC land with Travis Kelce, Andy Reid, Mahomes, and Taylor Swift, and they'll be back on their happy-go-lucky way. They did lose to the Eagles in the Super Bowl, so there's that revenge factor, but they are dinged up at wide receiver with Rice and Worthy, and Philly's tough. Had a couple extra days to prep, too, since they had a Thursday game against Dallas. So that's the best game. I mean, there's some other games that are spicy to a degree, the Houston-Tampa game, the LA game, or LA-Vegas game with Chargers-Raiders, but that's the game. That's definitely the game. Not my Cardinals against the Panthers. So there you have it, folks. We went 25 minutes, which was about 10 more minutes than I thought I'd get because I am starving for my wings that are sitting in the corner. So I'm going to bid adieu, but we will tell you that we will come on earlier than 10 a.m. on Saturday for 757 Saturday Sports Talk on Cova Sports TV, which you can watch in Tidewater, Nova, Roanoke, and Fredericksburg, Mondays at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern, Tuesdays at 12 noon Eastern, and Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern. We're also streaming all the time on Cova Sports TV on YouTube. So again, thank you all for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed your Football Friday. We plan to do this much earlier next week because I don't think I will be doing a triple overtime game. It was the first one I've done in my reporting career of over 20 years that I've seen. I've seen some double OTs, but never a triple OT. And one little quick correction, which I'll put on Cova Sports TV too. I think we blogged on Virginia Preps and also tweeted that it was the first OT game for Maury since 1998. Come to find out, Doreen McCain told me he did have one his first year that was in double OT against Churchland. It was not on our good friends at Four Seasons website, so we'll help our guys at Four Seasons get that corrected. And there you go. So first OT game for Maury in like 8 years. But great night of football all across Virginia. And we will do this again with you next time right here on Cova Sports TV and through the iTunes. We'll see you then. So long, everyone.